Hello. Super excited to be here. This is one of those sessions that we try as much as possible to make them super engaging, right? I think today we're just probably going to be doing an hour for this session. So we want to make it as engaging as possible and try to put a little bit of fun in it. Otherwise, this becomes such a huge bore just sitting in for an entire hour. So the drill for those that have been in these sessions before, um, we try to make them as casual as possible. This is not, one of those hyper serious meetings. So this is a safe space where we're able to just talk about this whole journey, that we're all committing to. And the fantastic thing today is um, we have mode. Let me just add you to the awesome. So we have more Chifamba. I think a lot of you are from Zim, do know her. So Mo, welcome. Super excited to have you around. I know this has been long overdue, but I do understand how schedules are, can definitely be a challenge, especially being part of a really demanding academic program. And also for me, I mean, having started a full-time gig as well, this has been such a demanding time as well, but I'm super excited for this. I hope we can, make this worthwhile to all the people that are just joining, because we want to share as much detail as possible and we want to say as much knowledge as possible so that, I do remember a couple of years ago when I was starting this journey and back in Zim, I just finished my bachelor's actually, and I was just thinking like, man, I need to transition to the US. Like I wanted to expand my skills. I wanted to expand my knowledge. Um, Let me just allow. I wanted to expand my knowledge, but information was just one deterrent. It was super difficult to know what to do, how to do it, who to speak to, right? So this is a really incredible opportunity for everyone who's going to be joining to just get that knowledge, to um, know how to position yourself. If it's choosing the program, choosing the university, planning for your career, basically how to navigate that entire end-to-end journey. So this is a fantastic opportunity. And the good thing, Mo is going to be sharing her experience as well. She's at one of the best universities in the US, doing one of the most difficult programs. But we do know that she's bright. So hopefully we can get a couple of your secrets, Mo. So just to quickly get started more, if you can just introduce yourself, if you want to just do a brief overview of your journey, where you started, what are you doing now, who you are, for the benefit of those that may not know who you are. Over to you.
Wow, thank you, Nigel. I'm very happy to be here. Like you, for me, I do not struggle with information. I had a very good access to mentors and people who were just willing to share their information and what I could do and what I could become. And that I found that my journey was a bit easier because of that. So I'm very happy to be here, happy to be sharing my story and my experiences in case they are useful to anyone. Um, just I know that this is recorded, but I'll try to keep it as content as possible so that you guys can have as much information. But after this, you also feel free to reach out to me. LinkedIn is usually where you'll find me. Well, anyway, really, Instagram on first, but anyway, aside from that, my name is Maud Chifamba. You can call me Maud, you can call me Maud, you can call me Maudi, or whatever it is that you prefer. I'm used to all those pronunciations of my name. I was born and raised in Zimbabwe, born in Gokwe. I started off my career with an undergrad degree from the University of Zimbabwe, and then I did my master's at the University of Zimbabwe as well in accounting. Then kicked off my career with Deloitte, where I was doing like my articles, got exposed to different sectors, really appreciated that experience. Qualified as a chartered accountant in 2021. So after that, I left Deloitte for a bit. An advisory service when I went back into remote audit. And Then I applied to business school in 2022, and I started off at Wharton. So I'm a first year MBA student at Wharton, where I'm getting my MBA, which is a 2-year program. I'm in at the tail end of my first year, and this summer for my internship, I'll be going to Goldman Sachs, and I'll be going into investment banking. So really happy to talk about the journey to applying to business school, the business school journey, recruiting, going into investment banking, and hopefully end of summer, I'll be also able to talk about investment banking as a profession. So in a nutshell, that is who I am. I'm here to help. I'm here to just share whatever you need me to share.
Awesome. That is fantastic. I mean, the first thing that I noticed when you're introducing yourself is you're just being humble. You said I completed my, bachelor's and master's in Zimbabwe. You left out all those details that you did it at such a young age, which I always
Oh,
is such a huge thing. I mean, it's trust me, at the age where you graduated, I was still figuring out how to solve what do you call it? Those quadratic equations in high school. So big kudos to you. So
thank you.
so let me just backtrack you to the time when you were just planning your future.
Mm-hmm.
You, at what point did you feel that you wanted to do an MBA? Like, what was the core motivation for that? And the reason why I'm asking this is, we've had a lot of people that are like, okay, I've done this undergrad program, hopefully, and even probably done a master's, right? And they're
Yeah.
like, I don't even know what to do, right? Do I need to do an MBA? Do I need to go into a master's in finance? Do I need to look into analytics and all these things? Can you just go back to the time when you were figuring things out with the program part of things? Was it because you wanted to, navigate your career in a route where the MBA would be important? Can you just take us through that journey and how you navigated it?
So that's a very good question. My answer is going to be very unconventional. As I said, I have had access to very, very good mentors. So the reason why I had to go to when I started off at Deloitte, one of the partners, Tumai Mafunga, I don't know if people, any CAs here know, Tumai Mafunga, called me. The reason I ended up going to Deloitte and said, hey, come do your articles here at Deloitte. Once you qualify as a CA, I'll take you to do an MBA and you go do your MBA at Stanford. Because at that time, Deloitte Zimbabwe was hosting Stanford Business School, and Stanford would come and teach the MBA at Deloitte. And Tumai knew about this MBA, right? So he said, come to Deloitte, do your articles. Once you're done with your qualification, once you get that experience in, it'll be able to take you to Stanford. At that point, I actually did not know, like, wait, what's this MBA? I didn't know the difference between an MBA in the US and an MBA in Zimbabwe, because I did not think it like that. That's why I even then went on to do my master's in accounting at the University of Zimbabwe. This was after my conversation with Tumai, because I was still like, wait, why do I need an MBA, right? And then one of my good friends got married to Munashe Makai. One of my good friends from college got married to
Yeah.
Munashe Makai, and her name is Rumbi. And she texted me one day. She's like, hey, I think you're really, really smart. I think you should try this MBA thing. The career outcomes that I hear are insane. You should really come and do this MBA thing. And I said, well, tell me more. And then when she told me, then she told me, here's my husband's number. Talk to my husband, ask whatever you want to ask. And then I'll be able to he'll be able to give you all the information you need. So I went into my articles journey knowing that in the back of my mind, remembering that Tumai wanted to take me to Stanford for my MBA. But it was only after I found out the career outcomes of an MBA that I started to look back, like, okay, so if I want that career outcome, I need to go through an MBA. So for me, I then realized that I did not enjoy accounting. It was interesting for a while when I was curious about numbers, curious about business operations, and audit gave me that, right? I felt like I had an understanding of businesses, I had an understanding of numbers, I had an understanding of financial reporting. I did a lot of hopping around after my articles, and it still showed me that audit was not what I wanted to do with my life. I know people enjoy it, but I do not want to do it anymore. what I wanted to do was something in high finance, specifically investment banking, which is why I ended up actually ditching the Stanford idea and applying to Watson, because Watson just has better outcomes for people who want to go into investment banking. So for me, it then became like the outcomes that I wanted. So I wanted to change from audit and wanted a career pivot, wanted to go into investment banking, go into high finance. So that was number one. Number two, I felt like I was really young. I think when I was now thinking about it for myself, I was now around 24. Tuma had been pushing me since 21, 22. Hey, remember we talked about an MBA, and I never really like paid attention to it until I was like 24. That's around 2022, beginning of 2022, 2020, end of 2021, beginning of 2022. Then I figured, you know what, I'm 24. I want to leave Zimbabwe. I knew I could leave Zimbabwe through audit because I had offers with EY and PwC in the UK, and was it EY in Bermuda? So I could leave Zimbabwe to go to other countries, but that was through audit. And as I said before, I knew I do not want my life to continue to be in audit. So that was another thing. Then the other thing that made me decide that I wanted to do my MBA, so it was the issue of career pivot, issue of global exposure, and then issue of network. So I then discovered or realized by myself that I wanted to work at the intersection of people and profit. And one of the ways that I could do that was in the very long term. One of the ways that I could do that was if I was able to get a great network of people who have resources that I can invest in these ideas that I have, so that I can start like my venture capital fund or whatever it is that I want to start 10 years from now. And one of the ways to build that network was going to be an MBA. And the fourth reason why I chose to do an MBA, honestly, was to increase my earnings. Like, I'm just gonna put it out there. Like, I think if you look at the schools in the top 15 MBAs, and you look at their employment reports, the earning potential of people coming into an MBA and getting out of an MBA is huge. Like, you invest 2 years and you come out making 4 times what you were making before the MBA. So for me, it sounded like a good investment. So yeah, that's why I then decided to do it.
Fantastic. That's such a,
Yeah.
oh, I mean, you had thought through that. But
Yeah, I had to want it for myself because the application process is a mess. Like, I don't even want to lie. The application process requires that you be dedicated to it. So I had to want it for myself, not that just because my mentor said this is a good idea. Otherwise, I was not going to be able to put in the effort that I needed to put into the application.
fantastic. So that's where I was about to head into the whole application process. But before we delve into that, you talked about the MBA. That's what you're doing. And
Yeah.
I've met people that are coming from non-finance people, people who are coming from a different background. Well, like, look, I don't have a finance background, right? Whatever that I did, maybe I did computing, and my passion is in technology, and my passion is in data, my passion is in something different. What advice would you give these people? I mean, do they have to all start moving towards the MBA because that's where the sweets are? Or
Of course, if you ask me, yes, follow the bag. Um, But no. So I have a technical postgraduate degree. As I said, I have a master's in accounting, which is like a technical degree. We're just focusing on accounting. And I'm also a chartered accountant, right? So for people who have passion in data science, data analytics, and all of that, I would say this: the MBA here is different from the MBA at home, especially if you're comparing to things like the MBA at UZ. I'm speaking to that because I taught some courses in the MBA when I was lecturing at the University of Zimbabwe. The MBA at home is very Masters of Business Administration. It's very business administration, very management heavy, right? When you come here to do your MBA, you choose your major. So by major, you're choosing a field that you want to concentrate on, of course, within the context of business. So for example, came here wanting to do finance, right? Because I want to go into high finance later, so that makes sense. But there are people here who are majoring in business economics and public policy because they want public policy. There are people here who are majoring in business analytics who feel like, well, in terms of the business, I'm good. I just want to learn more of data analytics. There is a major for that. Some people are interested in operations and decisions, and they major in, I think it's called operations, information, decisions. I don't remember what the other D is. So there are like different majors that cater to different sides that you want to focus on. It's not necessarily just MBA, very generic management courses. You get to tailor make the MBA into a major of what you want to do in it. Like, for example, in finance, you can do like just proper finance, or you can do quantitative finance, which is very, very quantitative.
Yeah.
So there are ways to then measure in different parts. And then when you're doing, for example, when you're doing data analytics, that means if you're going to then recruit, you can then leverage that data analytics to go into roles that are more inclined towards data analytics, if you get what I mean.
Okay.
You can leverage the business economics and public policy to recruit into the social impact roles, to go into the public policy roles, because that's what you're focusing on when you're at school. It's not like everybody who comes to the MBA has to do banking or consulting, although the majority of people then end up doing those.
Fantastic. That is fantastic advice, and I do concur on that. Because a lot of people have reached out to me, say the same exact thing. Like, I mean, they think, an MBA is just business. We're going to be learning about business, and then that's it. And then the other fantastic thing is, there are other universities that do offer it as a dual degree program, right? It's an MBA. Like my big brother did that. He did an MBA/business analytics. And when he graduates, he has 2 master's degrees actually. So in the 2 years, you can focus on like just do the core MBA, and then you can have the dual where you have an MBA/law program, LLM, right? So when you graduate,
That's true.
Yeah.
The Wharton School also offers a couple of dual degree programs within Wharton where you can take. So when I'm doing my MBA, I am allowed to take courses with other Wharton schools. Like, for example, I can take a school with the School of Engineering, right? But I'm also allowed to actually officialize that and say I'm doing 2 degrees. I'm doing a master's in law and a master's in business administration. I can officialize it, or I can just choose to take those courses. The way I've seen how the US works is a lot of the way they recruit. I know we're going to go into recruiting. A lot of the ways that they look for jobs or fill in their roles is through conversations. So you don't necessarily have to have a paper that says, oh, you have a master's in data analytics for you to actually get a role in data analytics, because you're going to do a lot of talking to get that role. So if you're able to leverage your, even like the major that you are doing that, look, I'm majoring in data analytics and I want to role in data analytics, you'll be able to then leverage that even when you don't have something that says you have a master's in data analytics.
Fantastic, fantastic. So let's just pivot towards the whole application process, right?
Okay.
You rightfully put it, it's not an easy thing, right? We've all been through this journey, and it's not the easiest thing in the world. There may be someone who's on this call, looks at you and be like, hey, what do you expect? This is more Chifamba, right? She's definitely going to go into a top school. She has done a lot of amazing things. But look, it's just me, regular Nigel. I'm not that smart, right? How will I be able to navigate this entire application process? Does it mean I'll never get in? Are there any tips that you can probably touch on so that, someone who may not have done, those things that you've done, right? Who's thinking about this, probably in that position where they're like, nah, not for me. Do you think they can succeed? Do you think this is something they can be able to pursue and find success in?
Oh yes. First of all, I do feel like this whole, oh, I'm not as smart, I'm just a regular person, is a very Zimbabwean mentality where we're taught to be humble, to not brag. Because I do think if most of the people here, if you have had your first degree, if you have been working, because I think the average work experience is 5 years. If you've been working 5 years, you are a pretty determined individual. It shows in your record, right? But the problem is most of the times in Zimbabwe, we want someone to come say, oh, you're amazing. We don't proactively say, hey, I'm amazing. And it's just a Zimbabwean thing, just the way we are raised, just the way our kind of culture sort of like teaches us to be. But I don't think there is anything that stops anyone from trying. So number one, you would actually need to fix that Zimbabwean attitude. I wrote my first essay for application, and then I sent it to Menashe to review. And then he said to me, I remember this, he sent me a message, he's like, you're being too humble in this essay. And I think that is something that affects every Zimbabwean person, where we're not able to. Americans have a way of soft bragging. They have this way of bragging, but not bragging. And when you're in Zimbabwe, it's like, oh my God, really? But it is their way of doing things. And if you want to get into their schools, you have to get on that wavelength of talking like them, expressing yourself like them. So you have to get over the whole, I'm just a small girl from a small town. No, that does not fly here. And then number two, I would actually ask people to reflect. If you see the stories that are in my admissions essay, it's about simple things that mean a lot to me, and then how I was able to then blow them over how my life has evolved. Like basically, they want to see what was your past, what is your present, and how does your present and your past fit into what you want to do, and how does the MBA fit in there. So you have to do a lot of self-reflection, because as I said with recruiting too, a lot of the American way of doing things is convincing the person sitting on the other side that this is believable, this is sellable, this is true. So you just have to do a lot of self-reflection, figure out your strengths, and look at how can you play into what you want to do in the future based off what you have already done, because they want believable stories. And for me, I do think once you do the test, did you do the test?
The GRE?
Yeah.
No, I didn't. So I done a master's in econ, so it was just
Yeah.
easy to get that quantitative.
Oh, that quant. Yeah. I
Like,
did the GMAT.
okay,
Because I think there are those are the simple things that you use to signal to schools that you really want it. Like you do the GMAT, like the test. There are schools that offer waivers. Please use those, because people have gotten into school without the GMAT. But I'm just saying, if you think your profile is not as competitive, which I think is very highly unlikely for people who have been working for 5 years, because
yeah,
we tend to just discount our experiences. But if you think your profile is not as competitive, I think getting into the test, making sure that you have a good score there, so that you show them that you are at the same level with everyone that they usually admit. That's number one. Number two, just really focusing more on the story. And it's not necessarily just what happened in your job, it's also what's happening around you, the work you're doing in your community, where you are showing that you are exceptional.
that is
That's
fantastic.
a big job. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. And I also love the point that you mentioned about being humble. It's such a Zimbabwean thing, to be honest. Not really a Zimbabwean thing. It's more of a cultural thing, right? Our culture
Yeah.
is in a place where, when you talk more about what you've done, it can be seen as being egotistic or a bit of.
Yeah.
But I think we even did a call with Munashe some time ago, and we spoke about this in much more detail, right? I've noticed, like, even at work, you can get in. I work in a consulting, position at Deloitte. So all Deloitte people more. So
Yeah.
you can be on a project, and you do amazing things on a project, right? But if you're not talking about those things to the people that are around you, the culture here is more like you didn't do it, right?
Yeah.
If
Yep.
you're in a meeting, whether it's school or anywhere else, and a question is asked, and you don't raise your hand, the implication is you don't know. But in Zim,
Yeah,
I
it's true.
yeah, yeah. So in Zim, we have this thing where I can know the answer, right? But I just don't raise my hand because I'm like, then when someone says it, I'm like, exactly. I knew that's what I would have said. But that sort of, discredits the potential that you have, especially when you're doing these applications, right? I've seen people who've been in management, and they send me their resumes to look at, worked for a fantastic company, has a really influential role. I look at the resume and it's just led a team of two, was responsible for this. Like, bro, you've done amazing things. Why are you,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
that's very true. I think America, the US, it is a meritocracy, but it's also a very extroverted community culture where if you have done something, you talk about it. Like you talk about, I have done this, right? So for example, when we were at school, when we were at UZ, there used to be these people that used to talk all the time in class, and everybody was just like, just eye rolled them, right? Like, oh my God, this is always talking in class and all of that. Here, that's how you get participation points for your grade, right? Like they care about you speaking up, they care about you talking a bit more about your experiences. I had a similar experience when I was looking for a job, and I sent my resume to this second year, and he said to me, look, I have talked to you, I know you can get a banking job, but this resume is not saying that. Like you need, when you're saying you did this, what exactly did you do? What are the numbers? Give me the numbers, give me things. And then I also think like people also here tend to overinflate a little bit what they have done if you're judging them from a Zimbabwean perspective, where in Zimbabwe, when we're at Deloitte, when you're audit senior, you're just audit senior, like you've been promoted like everybody else. Like, what's so special about being an audit senior? Here they will go and update their LinkedIn and talk about how that role is like the like how that is like, oh my God, the result of hard work, a testament to their dedication. And when you're in Zimbabwe, you just like brush those things like, oh, it's just normal because we are taught to be humble. So for your essay, please forget humility. It doesn't work here. It doesn't work here.
doesn't. So let's just go to the American classroom. The
Yeah.
beautiful thing you mentioned is you've taught a little bit of courses and some courses at UZ. And you are in an MBA now, and what do you think are those different things? And then the reason why this question is particularly important is to set the tone and to set the right expectations for those that are on this call that have been admitted to programs, right? They've already gotten offers. They're about to fly to the US. Some of them are still in the application process, and they're like, how is that really different, right? And as you're just talking about that, you can also just, how are people graded here, right? Do we write a final exam and we're all bound to fail in the grade hall, and we have invigilators running around, and it's this hyper difficult thing? Can you just talk about how the American classroom looks like, how things are done here? Because for someone in Zim, they'll be like, they've just been exposed to the Zim way of doing things, and they may not really understand what they're getting themselves into. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Okay, so I'll start with the grading part, because I have also lectured at the University of Zimbabwe. I lectured for like a year before I decided that academics was not for me. I think the difference between an MBA and other master's programs is that we have something called grades non-disclosure. So for us, grades don't matter. You can never know my grades And I'm not even allowed to tell you my grades. That's just something that as a student body at Wharton and at other schools, most for MBAs, they just allow that grades don't matter. And the reason why they do that is to allow you to focus on the classes that you genuinely like, number one, and two, to also focus on the parts of you that you feel need to grow. So if you feel like, as I'm here for the network, I'm outside. So it allows me to do that without having to worry about 50 billion assignments. Of course, I still have to do my assignments, but if I get a C, it does not matter. If I get an A, it does not really matter unless I want to be called to be a teaching assistant, which it's not something I'm looking for. But some people will be looking for it because it does come with a bit of income. So I would just put that disclaimer and say, here at Wharton, grades don't matter. You're supposed to focus on the classes that you like and the things that you like. And the way we're graded is on a curve. So there is actually, in simple terms, I'm sure this is not how it works, but in simple terms, there is no pass mark. There is a class average. The class average becomes a B plus. Then they have it like a normal distribution curve. That's how it happens. At the UZ, if you get 44%, you failed. Even if everybody gets 44%, they have failed. Of course, then the chairperson of the department will come to you and ask you, like, why did so many students fail, or whatever it is? Is it a reflection of the course, of your teaching methods? But there is no curve at the University of Zimbabwe. A 90% is a 90%. As long as you you score above 75%, that's an A. Here, you can score a 75% and probably that's the class average. So it's not an A, it's a B plus or whatever it is because of the curve. But in terms of the classes, the way they are different from our Zimbabwean education system is that, number one, you're not using syllabuses from years ago. You're using current syllabus to learn. So you're learning current things. We are learning, I think, just at the end was it at the end of the last year when the Silicon Valley Bank collapse happened, and we already are learning about it in finance, and we're learning about that in microeconomics. So we are learning current things of what is happening in today's world, number one. Number two, the professors are required to publish papers to remain in this, to gain tenure, something that they call tenure. So they are always up to date. It's different from Zimbabwean universities where if you get a PhD, you can just become a lecturer and that's it. Like there's no tracking of that continuous improvement and continuous relevance in the industry as they do here. The third thing is, because you're learning current things, we have a lot of guest lecturers. We have a lot of people that are actually doing things that we're learning about come to speak to us. Like, for example, if we are talking about online business models, or talking about artificial intelligence, or getting people coming from OpenAI to come to talk to us about ChatGPT, because that is what they are working on, right? If we're talking about, let's say, investing in sports, we have people that are managing actual sports teams coming to talk to us and giving us real world examples and real world. I remember even my marketing course, they brought like the head of marketing at T-Mobile to come and talk to us, and you have like 3 or 4 guest lectures in the sphere that you're talking about come and speak to you. The other thing that I really love are these things called faculty student lunches that we do here. So because your professors are currently doing what they are teaching, and the assumption is you're doing classes that you're actually interested in, the school provides budget for you to actually get lunches with your professors and discuss whatever ideas you're having with them. And sometimes I just go for the free food. The free food in a company, but there is that opportunity. Let's say if you're working on like some entrepreneurial project, you want help, there is a lot of help. We even have a venture lab where if you have a startup idea, they're providing you with resources that you need to, let's say you want to create a product, to create that product. And this is all on the school's money. So the learning here is very much applied and very much more, I would say, relevant to today's world. There's no Munya kind of vibe where you're still doing like things from like years ago.
Oh my gosh. And I also loved, I'll just echo that, it's applied, right? I think the culture here in the classroom is more of, we want to teach you so that when you graduate, we don't have, you don't have time to be, what do you call it? Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you
All right,
now.
awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So it's more of they want to teach you things so that you can immediately apply this thing, right? When you graduate, you was going straight to a company and you are doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? So I do love how interactive it is, how practical it is. And also, I mean, at our school, we don't have a non-grade disclosure type of system. We do have to know our grades, and we'll I'll know how much I've gotten, in a specific exam. But then
No, you will know. Here you will know. They
okay,
will tell you. So they will tell you that you scored 74%, for example. And then you will know that I have a B plus. However, you are not allowed to share that with potential employers or anyone else. So that's grades non-disclosure. You can't even put it on your CV that your grade was this much.
oh, sweet.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah, so you will know what your grade is, but you just can't share it. And the point of getting a good grade is being able to share it, right? Like to say to a potential employer, I graduated first class. There is nothing like that here. But they do allow you, like, for example, if you're top 1% of the class, they have like some list that they then publish of people that are top 1% of the class, directors list or any of those. Then you are able to say on your CV, I was on the directors list, I was on the dean's list, but you cannot say my GPA because they call it GPA, the grade. You can't say my GPA was 3.9. You can't do that.
That's fantastic. And also just to echo that, the grades, even when they are graded, they are not just fixed. I do remember at UZ we had the 25% for coursework, and then we had the 75% for the final exam. Here you have a certain percentage that goes for class participation. You have a certain percentage that goes for those assignments that you do. Then you have a certain grade that goes, and sometimes the final exams are not even written in like a grade whole. Sometimes it's a project, right? You take it home, and it's so it's not as intimidating as you think. That's what I
It's
want.
not,
Yeah.
yes, it's not like in terms of that part, I realized I didn't speak to it. So I have courses that I have exams for, but I also have courses where you just do a presentation and that's your final evaluation. And we have courses where you just submit a group project and that's your final evaluation. We have courses that have both, a combination of that group project and an exam, but that will have like different sort of percentages. But in terms of intensity, I wouldn't say it's intense, but no.
Okay. Fantastic. So let's just move to your recruitment. And big congratulations on securing Goldman. For those that don't know, Goldman is like one of the best investment banks in the world, if not the most prominent. So kudos to you for securing that.
Thank you.
Just take us through that journey. I remember at some point I was speaking to you and you showed me a calendar that was filled with a lot of interviews, and I've heard that that recruitment process is a job in itself, right?
Yeah, it is.
Can you just talk about that so that and possibly just share a couple of insights into how people can also navigate that in the future once they get to the US?
I think that to talk about the recruitment process in its entirety here, I would I would spend the entire remaining 20 minutes speaking about recruiting. But I would just try to summarize it. But here's the thing, if anybody's on the score, they got into a school, they're trying to recruit for banking, please find me, let's chat. But the thing is, I have never gone through something like that. I encourage people to come to their MBA, but I will be very honest about recruiting. I think that an MBA is a good thing. I think it's a great investment. I think great return and also a great experience overall. I get to travel. I've been like India, Saudi, across the world because of the MBA experience and like countries I would never have gone to. So the experience itself is great. The outcome's great. However, I don't want anyone to believe that just because you get into a school, you get a job that you want. Okay, I think if you get into a school, into a good school, you can get a job. But I want I don't want you to think it's like how I was thinking, how I thought when I get into Watson, when I get there to the building, there'll be banks lining up and I'll be choosing like, oh, I don't want you, I want you, I don't want you, I want you. It's not like that. It's a process. And that process, because we have Zimbabweans that have gone through it, I got a lot of help from Zimbabweans that were going through it. And I really and I think we are all here rooting for each other, but the process itself is an entire job by itself. So how they do recruiting is if you are at what they call target schools for investment banking, which is why it's very important that if you want to do investment banking, you go to certain schools that are target. The banks come to campus. So all 18 of them, or 18 of the investment banks came to Wharton. Then they have what are called employer information sessions. Employer information sessions, they are just telling you, this is us for Goldman Sachs, this is what we do, these are the groups we have that you can join. We want you to join. This is our process. Then you sign up for the banks that you want to go into process with. So I signed up with about 10 banks. I signed up, I want to do these 10 banks, I'm going to recruit for 10 banks. So, because those are the ones that were actually sponsoring international student visas, because the visa is a separate story. Then when you do that signing up, you then start something that they call coffee chats, where it's literally a conversation like me and you are having right now. And I'm just telling you who I am, what I have done before, and why I want to do investment banking and why I want to work at your bank. Now you do this across all 10 banks. And what happens then is if I impress you, Nigel, that, oh, yeah, that girl seems like she's going to be a good addition to this team, you refer me to the next person in the team. If I don't impress you, if you're like, no, she's wishy-washy, she's not sure about what she wants, you will drop me. But here's the thing, you don't tell me that you've dropped me. The only way I will know that I'm no longer in your process is because my friend will tell me that they're speaking to the third person in your team and I haven't heard back from you.
Oh my God.
That was the emotional part of it, of recruiting. And just doing that across all banks. So you would have banks where I remember JP Morgan would want us to do 3-4 coffee chats a week. That's 3-4 different people that you're speaking to. And remember, fortunately for me, I was not cut out of many processes. I was cut out of PJT. And and I know why I was cut, but it still stung, right? It still stung, but I was not cut from many processes. So I was still in the many processes. So you're doing 4 coffee chats for JPM, but you also have 8 other banks that you still need to be talking to. You're still talking to Evercore, you're still talking to Goldman, you're still talking to Centerview. No, I wasn't talking to Centerview, Rain, because they didn't sponsor. So that part becomes like some part of it, starts to feel like a job, because every time you have to show up with energy, with interest, like you're very excited to talk to this person, and it's more of because I think the American culture is about likability,
Yeah.
right? They want to see if they can, if they like, they're judging you for competency. They want to know if you can do this job, but they also want to know if you're well spoken. They also want to know if they like you. So just playing into those matrix and going through that and going through, you have just moved to a new country and going through, you also have academics. Although grades don't matter, you don't want to be the one on the tail end of the curve and they have to fail you. Like, you don't want to do that. So that is why it was stressful. But this happens only for banking.
Yeah.
Consulting, I heard, is very different. My friends who were doing consulting were having tons of fun, like at their events. They were going to dinners, they were going to like actual coffee, like they would actually go to an actual coffee shop. Our coffee shops were on Zoom for banking, but for consulting they were going to actual coffee shops, so it was fun. So this happens for banking, and honestly I understand, because banking is hard as a job. It's hard. And also to the compensation differential means that they want to make sure that you're not just wanting to do it for the money. You want to do it because you actually will stay at the firm. Because if you're doing it for the money, I guess if it gets hard, you can just say, oh, let me leave this, right? So they want to assess that. That's why it's a bit more intense.
Wow, it sounds hectic, to be honest. But I
So
mean,
that's it.
at the end of the day, I mean, they'll pay you the money for it. So
Yeah, like honestly, I feel like honestly, at the end of the day, if you really think about it, that you're coming from Zimbabwe, this is what I had to tell myself during the process. You're coming from Zimbabwe to the US to get a job that will pay you a basic salary of $185,000 and a probable bonus of $185,000. Honestly, you can't expect to just walk into that job. Like, if you really think about it, it you can't just walk into that job.
yeah,
They have to do all these checks, right, before they give you that offer.
that's fantastic. Right.
Yeah.
So I think now let's just open it up to live question and answers from people. So you can,
Olivia sent me a question.
yep,
She
that's
said, what is your take on PMBA recruiting? Honestly, I did not do PMBA recruiting because I was busy having fun and doing farewell events and stuff. I don't even know why I was doing that, but but I did. I did not do PMBA recruiting, and looking back after going through the recruiting experience, I still would not. If I was to go back and know that I would get Goldman Sachs internship after recruiting, I would still not go back to do PMBA. I wouldn't do it because it worked out well for me. I wanted to go to Goldman. I got Goldman and it worked out. That process, although it was intense, it taught me a lot about how Americans actually work. So I will not get that shock when I start working, because it got me an insight into American working style, investment banking. I think I've got to meet more people, met amazing people through the recruitment process. It was intense, but I met amazing people, met good friends, have a good network. Like, if I decide I want to re-recruit for Lazard, I'm not starting from scratch. I have good people that I met at Lazard, right? So I would still do full-time recruiting. But I will caveat it by last year, this year are very bad years in terms of the job market. So if I was to advise someone, I would say do PMBA recruiting if you can. Give your all into PMBA recruiting because it's just a bad market, right? So you want to optimize your options. So if you are able to do PMBA, please do it. Please do it because it's just a bad market. And I think people who did PMBA seemed like they were having more fun during the first semester because they did not have recruiting stress. But I actually think I got something from the recruiting process that I wouldn't have gotten if I did PMBA. So I'm grateful I didn't. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And the rest of the team, you can just pop your questions in the chat if you do have any. If you want to go off mute, that's still 100% fine. But I see one person that says, I is having a does having a grade makes you more competitive? How long does it take to prepare for the test?
Having
Um,
a what? GRE?
GRE, yeah.
I think GRE, in honestly, there are people who have gotten into schools this year without GMAT or GRE. But I think if you want to optimize your chances with the fellowships and like the money that they give you, the fees, I think it is great if you can to have a GRE. Now it's a different case if you try to write and it doesn't go well. That's a different story. But if you can, I think it would be just advisable to just write the GRE. I had the GRE is easier than the GMAT. I did the GMAT, but I heard it's advisable to do the GRE if you're in Zimbabwe.
Okay, so I think the next question just also got answered with that. So
Someone question says, which schools are great for consulting, or is it still the M7? Okay, at least somebody's in the process if you know M7. I think if you're at any of the M7s, you are great. For consulting, they all place an almost identical amount of people into consulting. But I also think outside the M7, if you're in the top 15 schools, if you go online and look for the top 15 MBAs in the US, you are still great for consulting from those. I know Darden is not a powerhouse, but for consulting, it is also very good. It's not an M7, I mean, but for consulting is also very good. So if you stay within the top, I always say stay within the top 15 because here in the US, where you actually went to school matters. So I would say stay within the top 15. If you can't get into the top 15, maybe top 25. The moment you're going to top 26, employment outcomes are starting to differ. So I would say stay in the M7, in the top 15. And then they also went on to say, also without prior banking experience, audit included, can anyone get into banking or investment banking? I did not audit a bank before. I don't have any banking experience in whatever way or shape or form, but I still got investment banking. Honestly, it's about how you tell your story. Why are you interested in investment banking? I was able to pinpoint a time that got me interested in investment banking because, as I said, it's about likability. It's about convincing the person sitting on the other side that you really want to do investment banking, and that's something that they are really judging you on. So yes, it's possible. Let's talk about that. Like if you are recruiting for banking, let's talk about that. It also goes into like your pitch, how you introduce yourself, like how Nigel was like, oh, the way you introduce yourself. When you're doing banking, you have 90 seconds, which is 1 minute 30 seconds to introduce yourself. And in that introduction, you're supposed to put things that signal like, oh, hey, I'm a strong candidate and I want to do banking, and you can't question it. And if you're interested in banking, let's talk about that. Then I'll tell you how my pitch was. So many people are sending me these direct message questions.
that's fine. I've noticed that that's how they usually. But I mean, if you find anything interesting that you would like to answer live, that would be fantastic. Let me see what.
One of them is on scholarship for MBA. You won the Africa MBA Fellowship Award. Please, can you throw more light on that scholarship? I was so impressed that it is for full tuition. Thank you so much. Yes, I was also very surprised because I was happy with just getting a sport. Like I was happy with just getting a sport without the money. So I was also actually, when I read the admission letter, I actually did not see that I was getting money. I just felt like, welcome to Watford. I went and celebrated. Then about 30 minutes later, I had to go back to the list. I'm like, wait, there is money. So I was also very happy to see that. Honestly, for Watson, they don't do need-based scholarships. They do merit-based. So it's just about how does your profile compare to other applicants? And that determines how much money you get and how much the school wants you to come, because they tend to give more money to people that they want to come to the school. that they feel like are strong applicants, that have stories that are believable, that they think really want the MBA, and that they think that the MBA makes sense in the grand scheme of the story of why they want the MBA. So I guess for me, it was a merit best. That's why I'm saying your best bet is to bring your best application in terms of like the scores. I will encourage people to write GMAT and GRE, even though people can get waivers, because I think it communicates strongly to the school that you really want to go there. You see, like good, like Watson doesn't have GMAT waivers because they care about that metric, right? Because they want to know that when you come here, you're not going to be dragging the class average down, although grades don't matter, but still they want people who are smart enough to grasp what they're being taught. And the GMAT is just the way that you communicate that, especially if you're coming from universities that are from outside the US, that are using grading systems that are different from what they are used to here. So the test scores is how you communicate that you're ready for the curriculum, you can handle it. So I am all for people writing, even though you can get waivers. And then while we're on scholarship, some schools give need best to say, we notice that you're from Zimbabwe, so we're going to give you this much money to help towards your tuition. You might also want to apply to those schools that do need best. And then while also we're on the point of scholarship, when you recruit for certain jobs, they come with more money. Like, for example, I got the Goldman Sachs MBA fellowship, which means I'm getting 75K from Goldman to put towards my work experience. So there are other fellowships outside what the school offers that you can still get. When I got here, I still applied for the Wharton Student Experience Fund. I told them I don't have money to do all of these things that I need to do for this school. And then they gave me 5,000 more to just go on and have these experiences. So there is more money outside just what comes through in the later, if that helps. There's way more, there are more ways to get funding.
That is fantastic with 3 minutes for so more. Thank you so much. This has been fantastic. I mean, you have shared a lot of really important things. I can see that there are a couple of other messages that are still in the chat. So I'll encourage anyone with a little bit more questions, more if you're open to it, they can just reach out to you over LinkedIn. For us, we do have a WhatsApp group chat. For those that are new to this, that don't know we do have a WhatsApp group chat. I think this is a new group because the first one got full, like it got full, but that's I've just pasted a new group link in the chat. Feel free to join that group. That's where we send updates if you have other specific questions that you want answered that we couldn't answer on this specific call. You can just join that and we can try to help out. But all in all, this has been fantastic. For those, let me see. Yep, more. Any final statements, any final things that you'd like to wrap up with before we close out the meeting?
Well, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for having me. I know it's kind of annoying to listen to somebody just go on and on and on and on for an hour. So thank you for coming. My last words would be, don't count yourself out. There's no nobility to be found in being like humble, right? There are a lot of, just go on Google, type top 15 MBA programs, go to the school website, go look for their employment reports and see where they send people, what kind of roles people are getting after the MBAs, if you're interested in MBA, of course. And see that there is a whole world out there that we don't get to know of when we're in Zimbabwe. And I hope you take a chance and decide to explore it. And don't count yourself. Don't count yourself out. I think most people have what it takes to succeed. They just don't have the confidence to go for it. And if you need any, if you think I can be of any use, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. I love helping out. Or if you just want to have an extra conversation or an extra question.
That's fantastic. Love it. So it's two, and one other thing, one final thing. I know in the past hour, we're just talking about school, recruiting, and all those hyper serious things that we're talking about. Trust me, the US is a really fun place to be in, outside of school, outside of recruiting. Like there's a lot of things to do. You can go eat out, you can go to see basketball. I do go to see basketball. Sometimes I just go on walks, right? So there's a whole social life going out there that's really, really fantastic. And I'm pretty sure that for those that are still considering coming to the US, it's really fantastic. Trust me. There are a lot of things that you can read on the news, that you can see on social media, that are quite negative. But quite frankly, I've been here for say around 2 years now, but I haven't had a really negative experience. This has been fun for me. So I think with that, Mo, thank you so much.
It's also been fun. Like for me, I'm having the best time of my life, honestly. I'm living my best life. After recruiting concluded, I started living my best life. I'm living my best life. So there is fun sides. There is a lot of fun.
All right, awesome.
Then there's the last question. I
Oh,
think you would like to take that one.
all right, awesome. Take it.
No, you.
Oh, wait, which one? Let me see. Is it
Is it
advisable?
yeah,
Is
yeah,
it advisable to get a loan for MBA? Right.
yeah.
Yep. So loan-wise, you've applied, right? You've applied to 5 schools, 10 schools, and um, you then compare, right? Maybe not all the schools are going to give you a full run scholarship. You're not going to get fully funded. You still have 20,000 left, 40,000 left. And if the loan route is something that you would want to do, then definitely yes, because remember the finances that Mo was talking about. There's an opportunity to make $180,000 when you graduate. And if $20,000, if $40,000 is an impediment to that dream, 100% take it on board and cover those tuition expenses. Empower Financing helps you with that. We've had a lot of sessions where we've been talking about how to apply for this. The beautiful thing is Empower has no collateral, no co-signer, right? So all that means is you just need to have applied to your school. We're sending you Empower application. It usually takes 30 minutes to do. And once you get that offer, you put it towards your MBA in collaboration with the merit-based scholarship. And right after that, you're good to go. When you're done, you start paying it off. And given the salary numbers that you've been hearing, it's not daunting to pay back the loan, especially considering that it can be repaid in 12 years. And then there are also other things that loan can be refinanced, right? You can still refinance it when you're done, and that will drive down your interest rate. It will probably expand the repayment period to about 25 years if you're using other internal loan agencies that are in the US. So definitely, if you cannot get a full ride scholarship, I couldn't get a full ride scholarship. I'm not as smart as Mo, but so I had to,
There's a Zimbabwean coming.
the Zimbabwean in me is now talking. But all in all, don't let your dreams slip by, because especially when there are avenues where you can cover yourself. So yeah, that's what I would say. But if you do want to know more about the loan program, join the group, ask the question, and I'll be glad to help you out. Mo, I don't want to keep you from enjoying your weekend. This is
I have a ball to go to. You see, I'm wearing a ball gown. I have a
oh
ball to go to, so I had to go.
that is fantastic. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining. You have a fantastic rest of your day and evening.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye.